Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Are you aware? This is MacVoices. Today's MacVoices is supported by Quip, better oral health made simple. Visit getquip.com/MacVoices to get your first refill free. Welcome to MacVoices. This is a talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. This MacVoices live discussion focuses on Cybersecurity Awareness Month, which is October, in case you didn't know. We touch on the obvious password security and usage, but we also dig into what antivirus software that our panel is or is not running and why they are or are not running it. We talk about two-factor authentication and authentication apps and why it's probably one of your first best lines of defense if it's available. Let's go in and let the panel do the talking. All right, Patrice, you threw in an article into our Slack that you want to talk about, and I'm going to let you talk about it because I'm kind of curious as to why you think this was so interesting.
If I could remember what I put in, the Google Apps thing.
Yes, yeah, I'll throw it into the chat while you're talking.
So I found it interesting. I mean, Google has been one of those companies that, like, all their iOS apps were kind of very, 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 very late to anything Apple introduced. Like, it took them forever to introduce dark mode or multi-window support on your iPad, or all of those nice features that iOS has. Google took forever to get them, and the reason for that was usually that they have so much custom code because it's basically Android on iOS. Like, if you look at Google apps, they look like Android apps with material and everything, but they run on iOS. And Google apparently at some point earlier this year or last year decided to switch and to not do that anymore and to not waste time on fighting the iOS system and trying to implement their own stuff and just be more iOS-like. And that is, I mean, given how big Google is and big companies tend to do stuff like that, very interesting. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Is it just me who has a problem with Google Apps on iOS, or is that a general thing?
No, not you. In fact, one of the most validating moments was when I looked at a Google Calendar app on my friend's Android, and I was like, "Oh, good! It sucks for you too." Well, the thing that was sucking in particular is you can't add a calendar on the mobile app. I have to go to the desktop browser to alter my calendars at all. And anyway, yeah, no, they've been awful. When they introduce a new feature, you just have to know, well, I can't use this for a long time, a year or two sometimes for some of the new features. This is if I don't use a lot of Google apps, and partly it's because I find them annoying. And so I've found ways not to, but when it's shared, that's your choice. That's the option. And I'm not willing to be hopeful yet, but I'm hoping I can hope.
This kind of ties into a discussion that we had a few weeks ago, I think, because this is kind of the opposite of all the companies that are moving to Electron. So, Google is moving away from a cross-platform development and saying, no, we're going to do native development on Android and native development on iOS. And yeah, I think this is a very interesting story.
Well, I was going to say Patrice may in fact be the only person who has a problem with Google Apps on iOS because I don't use them. They drive me up a wall, and every once in a while I try and then I fail and then I get mad and then I rage quit and delete everything and then go back to, whatever I was using as the alternative instead. So I don't have a Gmail app on my phone. I have a mail app that checks my Gmail address, but it is not the one from Google. And I actively don't use them because every time I do, it's just really frustrating. And so I've more or less stopped. And so that was going to be my zippy reply was, of course not, because
I do use Maps and Mail, and I don't have a big problem with them. So
yeah, that's about and Chrome occasionally. So,
I never use Chrome.
Kelly and Patrice,
there's the widget that I like, the Google search widget. I use that a lot.
But Kelly and Patrice, which apps are you referring to that you just are really frustrated with and you rage delete them?
Maps and I have a contentious relationship. I would say it's complicated, but that's the one that is the least aggravating most of the time. Most of what I find aggravating about it is not using it. It's, I want your data. No. How about now? No. How about now? No. How about now? No. Okay. How about now? No. So,
Yes.
So like that one, and like, so that I find really frustrating. Like when I open the app, that's the only time. And the rest of the time, GTFO. That's my stance. And like Google Maps seems to not be able to wrap its head around me going, no, if it's not open, no. So that one I'm frustrated with. I've tried the Gmail app, like the official Gmail app, and I find it frustrating. And the Google Office stuff, Google Docs and Google Sheets, like I've tried to use those. Even just I'm gonna open it and look at the thing. I don't have to do any editing. I don't have to actually do anything in this document that got shared with me. I was just going to peek at it on my phone real quick or peek at it on my iPad real quick and take a look at, show notes for something, or somebody shared a document with me and I just need to take a look at it. And I find them endlessly frustrating.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's like the office stuff, especially. I mean, our company uses still a lot of, I mean, we're moving away from it, but we're still using a lot of like Google Docs and Google Sheets and so on. And like I open them sometimes on my iPad and it's frustrating. I mean, it's like, it doesn't fit, it doesn't work right. Like sometimes it's like it behaves really weird.
Is that going to be something that using iOS APIs is going to fix, or is it just stuck?
I think so, because I mean, if you look at Excel, for example, which is, I mean, pretty decent on an iPad.
Right, but
that uses a lot of iOS stuff. Like it's like the behavior of the system doesn't really fit, and that's the problem.
Yeah, I don't use Google Docs on any platform, so I don't really know, and it's partly why I'm asking. But I do hear a lot of negative stuff about it on any platform. So, I mean, just because something has iOS APIs doesn't mean it's going to be good necessarily. It could still suck.
It is really good in a browser on macOS. Like that, it works really well there. So
at least in the browser, it's the same experience for everybody. Like if you're on a Chromebook and using Google Docs in a browser, if you're on a Windows machine and using Google Docs in a browser, if you're on a Mac and using Google Docs in a browser, it's sort of the same for everybody. The thing that's annoying about it is annoying to me across all platforms. So yay.
Yes.
But and because it's something to do with keyboard commands. Like I can't right click and copy paste or something. I have to use the keyboard. I don't remember what it was, but there's some dumb thing that like I can't seem to teach myself. But that's the one that. But at least like it's consistent across all browsers, more or less. And so like if you're using it in a browser, it's going to basically look the same. And any hurdle you have with it isn't going to be anything to do with the operating system wrapped around that browser. It's just. This is what Google Docs is and does, and there you go.
I would have thought it would have been pretty browser implemented on iOS and every other platform anyway. I mean, it doesn't run in a WK web view, or do you know? It's actually they actually have native. Like all the things are native. That's kind of amazing.
And export them.
Yeah. Oh, David, you're awake.
No, I'm sorry. I'm there. Just listening.
So before we leave this topic, Webb in the chat room says, "Where's Jay Miller when we need him?" Regarding Google Docs.
True.
He said he wasn't going to be here, didn't he?
Yeah, he said he wasn't going to be here, and I don't think we need him in this discussion. We have enough trouble with him in the reasonable discussions.
But
So.
his eye is twitching right now, and he's not sure why. So I'll have to text him later and clue him in. Yeah,
exactly.
I'm with him on Google Docs. So if he's against it, I'm with him on that one. It's not fun.
I didn't say it was great. I said it was consistent across all browsers.
Yes.
I didn't say it was a great experience. I just said it was the same. That's different, and that's an important distinction.
Absolutely. So I wanted to get a little bit into Cybersecurity Awareness Month. We've inevitably when we bring this topic up, we tend to focus a bit on passwords, and so I want to kind of skip over that just a little bit, and talk about some of the other things that you can or should be doing. And one of the things I was curious with this group is to find out who's running what antivirus software on their Macs, if any, and why do you feel that it's a good idea at this point? So let's see, where haven't we started? Brittany, I'll pull you right out of the middle. Are you running any antivirus?
Not on my computer, but on a beloved relative who is well-meaning and susceptible. I run it on hers.
Okay.
Which one?
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, the one that everyone recommended that if you say the name, I can say yes, but it's not coming to me right now. That
Sophos. Sophos. He said.
Okay.
Sophos. It's always Sophos. No?
Sophos? Okay.
No.
No?
It's not that one.
Well,
anyway.
We'll see if we come up with the name here. Warren, how about you? Are you running anything?
No, definitely not. Antivirus. No antivirus on the Mac. And I've been supporting people with Macs for a while. And anytime anybody's run into an issue with trying to get somewhere that they're trying to get to, either on the internet or through something, it's always the antivirus doing something that it shouldn't be doing, which is blocking something. So I've never used it. I tell people that I don't use it. If you run in a mixed environment, between Windows and Macs, I have, and the only times I've ran hundreds and hundreds of antivirus runs on different computers. The only time I ever found anything was maybe like something in like a mail message from like 2001 or something like that. It's real. I've honestly never found any reason to do it. I've never seen, I've seen plenty of adware and browser hacks on the Mac, and I've seen that. The worst things I've ever seen on the Mac is nothing to do with antivirus. It's a profile. It's a profile install from somewhere, and installs a profile that takes over some of the things. And if you don't know where to look, that could drive you crazy because you don't know why it's doing the things that it's doing on that. But in the chat room, somebody said Malwarebytes. I will definitely run that for the adware, which is usually what I'll find. Detect X is a free one as well. That's kind of a run at one scanner, pretty much. Malwarebytes will try to get you to pay for it, but you can, do a free run and uninstall it when you're done. But yeah, I mean, I've never, I personally have never seen an actual real virus on a Mac. And I haven't been doing this as long as some of you as far as the Macs go. And I understand that before Mac OS 10, there was some issues, but I haven't seen it. I haven't seen any ransomware on the Mac. I haven't seen any self-propagating virus on a Mac that basically will travel to another destination without you doing anything. And the only time anybody really catches anything is, if it asks for your admin password, you put it in, then you don't even cache something. It's going to be something on their browser that's hacked.
In the chat room, Webb says he's running Sophos, otherwise known as Sophia, thanks to autocorrect.
Like Sophia.
I run Sophia too.
Yeah. Patrice, how about you?
Does clean my Mac X count? Because then I'm running that every now and then. I mean, it has a malware detection.
Never finds anything.
So never finds anything, and I'm not expecting it to. No, I mean, honestly, I've evaluated it like on and off for years, like just to see if it was worth it. I've never found it to be any good, and like it usually was worse for the system than the benefit it brought. And the reason for that is that, I mean, and that's true for most for most antivirus systems. They only detect what is known. So anything that is new, it will not detect. And if you're hit by that, then you're out of luck. And Apple has a pretty good system in place to block known things.
Mm-hmm.
So I simply don't see a reason for it. And that's a endless discussion with IT departments. Do we need antivirus on a Mac or not? But I stand firmly that at least as of today, I don't see why you would need one.
This edition of MacVoices is supported by Quip. Better oral health made simple. Visit getquip.com/MacVoices to get your first refill free. Good health starts with good habits. Brushing your teeth first thing in the morning and last thing at night are among the most basic and easiest habits to practice. Get the most out of those habits with Quip. Quip is a smart electric toothbrush that is loved by over 7 million mouths. What makes Quip so good? First, you have timed sonic vibrations with 30-second pulses to guide you to a dentist-recommended 2-minute clean. Second, it's lightweight and sleek, more like a traditional toothbrush than some of those other bulky options out there. And since style is always important, Quip has reusable handles in a range of sleek metal options, including all black and all pink, as well as bright colors. There's a lot more to tell you about Quip, but for now, I want you to start taking better care of your oral health. If you go to getquip.com/MacVoices right now, you'll get your first refill free. That's your first refill free at getquip.com/MacVoices. And that's spelled getquip, GETQUIP.com/MacVoices. Quip, the good habits company. Thanks to Quip for their support of MacVoices. David, since Patrice brought up IT department, we look to you right away.
Yeah. Well, think of it this way: IT departments, enterprise, any companies, they have to follow the compliance of info security. I mean, you have to run virus scan software on a machine that's on an enterprise network. There's just no ways around it. And unfortunately, it's can be a problem too. You know, you still got products like McAfee out there that are still being run, and they're running on Macs, and it's god awful horrible. I mean, it slows the machine down, it causes problems. I mean, but you have to understand in that area, you have to be running something just as a I mean, for audit purposes. You know, companies audit themselves. If you aren't protecting your systems, then shame on you. You have to have some sort of product. ESET's another one. McAfee's another one. Is one of them, and there's many others. Personally, I don't run any virus software on my machine at all. I would go in Patrice's place and use Clean My Mac X. I've used many times, especially because it's part of SetApp, and I have run that a few times just to see where the malware is. But then I've helped people before, and someone called me the other day with getting that message that says you have to call this number right away because you have malware and you have all this crap on your computer, and it was blaring in the background. But they called me. I'm like, do not call that number. Whatever you do.
And then push it again.
Yes, push the power button down.
That's how you clean that virus off.
Yes. And power back up. And I says, if it happens again, let me know. But yeah, Malwarebytes, as Brittany says, you're running it on your family's machines. Yeah, that's a decent product. I know I think they do have a free version you can run. It may not clean everything, but there's no need for it to purchase it. But
of Malwarebytes?
I thought there was. I could be wrong.
No, Malwarebytes has a free version, but you can't schedule it automatically. Like you have to open it and run the scan and let it run sit and do it yourself and wait. It doesn't just automate. That's what you pay for.
Windows, the Mac version, just to clarify, the Mac version does pressure you to buy it even for the on-demand scan.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
So you could just uninstall it if you don't.
And I was even going to mention Microsoft does have a Windows Mac product that they're using for the enterprise too, for their Defender product that's on Windows. So there are tools out there in the enterprise, but at home, I just, other than maybe your occasional browser hijack that might happen, and that's relatively easy to clean. And I agree with Warren. There just really hasn't been any major viruses in the wild on a Mac in quite a long time.
Wow. So Microsoft, you were talking about an antivirus, not a virus creation software.
No, antivirus. Yeah, no. Microsoft has an antivirus. Their Windows Defender. They also have a Mac Defender type product. I can't remember the name of it, but
sometimes you could say that the Microsoft product itself is the virus, but
depends on the product. But yes,
I will say Windows 10 and Defender.
Right. In Windows, it's built in. You don't need. I mean, these products. That's why these companies have moved on to other things.
It's got a lot better since Windows 7.
100%.
Yeah.
Windows gets the same kind of adware and browser hijacks too, but I haven't. They're getting better. Let's put it that way.
They're trying. Sometimes it feels like they're selling arms to both sides. That's just, I can't help it. Jim, how about you? Are you in the camp of not needing it?
I've never run any antivirus software ever.
Okay, well, that's pretty definitive. Kelly, I think you're
except when I had a Windows machine for a while.
Yeah. Kelly, you're the last one. And then I'll get into the chat room and me too. But what do you don't bother?
I do run Malwarebytes on the regular. I have spent time with other ones as part of the day job because I'm in IT as well. And most of the support that I do is for Macs. And so it's mostly making sure the weird phone calls that say, you have a problem with your machine and we can help you fix it, don't get any further. Like the profitable attack vectors now on macOS are not viruses. It's phishing, which doesn't have anything to do with your computer necessarily, or the phone calls, to tell you about the trouble with your machine. And, you need, I'm from tech support and you need help, and let's just get your Visa number to get things underway. And like, that's the far more profitable way for people to give you a hard time with your technology. It's not like the one I always think of is I used to get this email from somebody every once in a while that would say, congratulations, you just got a Mac virus. Go delete a bunch of random files from your hard drive and then forward this message to everyone in your address book.
Yeah, that's a manual virus.
Yeah, I used to get that about every 6 months. It would make a lap and somebody would go, oh, Kelly, you'll get a kick out of this. Like, I've never seen it before because I didn't get an email address in 1993. So I've seen them. I've seen that one a bunch. I've run things that I've dabbled in at work are Bitdefender, mostly Malwarebytes. We spend a lot of time with Malwarebytes. Bitdefender, because Bitdefender has other products as well. I think they're the ones that have a VPN solution as well that you can use. So I've seen it and I have experience with it. Avast is another one that is still around. ClamXAV is still around as a utility that you can run on your Mac. But mostly like for day-to-day things, I will generally go download something specific, run it, see what I get, and then leave. But mostly it's the malware is the thing to worry about more than like actual virus stuff.
Right.
Like the last time I remember being legitimately concerned about a virus was there was like the QuickTime auto start worm that came out on a Mac Addict CD, which was attached to Mac Addict magazine, because I just couldn't resist making this reference any more dated. But I think that was the last time I remember there being like an actual virus thing that you had to actually worry about. And it was more an annoying thing than something bad was going to happen on your computer. So, and that was like System 7, macOS 8. Like
there was one recent one that was attached to, was it Handbrake or something? Oh, God.
Yeah.
It was something like real common.
Handbrake had one.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I mean, most, like everybody's saying, most of the things you read in like, online that say something about a Mac virus, it's always the same thing. Researchers, security researchers have identified a vulnerability in blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And to me, that's just like, you know what? Security researchers could find a vulnerability in anything. And,
that's true.
It doesn't mean it's dangerous. It doesn't mean it's common. It doesn't mean it's coming to you in the wild. So, and that's what Apple does. They listen to those people and they're so quick to fix it. And they, usually it's even behind the scenes with the gatekeeper. You don't even know they fixed it, but they do.
Right.
I mean, everyone's using antivirus software, whether they know it or not, for their computers, and that's the Mac App Store.
True.
No, that's
It's
a good point.
gatekeeper too.
I mean, gatekeeper's going to say, if it sees an app to say, hey, this is not a trusted app, and it blocks it. So it makes the user think twice before installing it. But, it's very easy to bypass that just by going in security and updates and saying, oh, open anyway.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, but you said
or
it
by
well,
signing your malware.
Yeah.
Right. But you said it well, David. It makes you think twice. And at some point, that's about all we can ask for things to do. I guess I'm the paranoid one of the bunch because I run both Malwarebytes and MacScan. And I have to say, first of all, I like the fact that I'm paying for both of them because both of them, therefore, are regularly updated. And that seems to be one of the problems with the free things. They're hot for a little while, and then somebody loses interest or they don't pay attention. And then if anything does get through, bang. I respect what Patrice said, but with these to be as far as previous malware utilities always seem to cause more problems than they were worth. But these two, they just sit there, they do their thing. I don't even know they're running. I have found that I have received viruses in email attachments and everything, but guess what? They're Windows viruses. Mm-hmm. So at least I can't pass them on, which is not a bad thing, especially if you are doing any kind of business work on your laptop. Which sort of leads me to catch up with the chat room. Rich says maybe for companies with BYOD. David Webb asked for comments on is it NIST or NIST security framework?
Yes, NIST.
NIST.
Yeah, and he said this may be a little deep into how the sausage is made. Brian says, I use McAfee provided by my ISP, plus I take precautions on where I download software. Needs to be a very trusted company, otherwise just all off the Mac App Store. Good for you, Brian. That's Kelly McAfee provided. It's a good gig. And Brian says, it seems not to work well since updating to Big Sur. And I mean, where does McAfee? Where does McAfee stand now? Is it being actively developed?
Because we're still using it. I mean, it's but I think CrowdStrike by Falcon is becoming a big product that's coming out. And I think a lot more companies are looking at that. I think we're looking at it because McAfee's become quite a bit of bloatware. And I made the comment in the chat there, the McAfee support for enterprise has been just getting worse and worse.
It has.
I don't know where they're going. They were owned by Intel at one point, and I think Intel's, I don't know if they spun them off or where they're at that point, but it's hard to say.
It's gone downhill since John McAfee killed himself or was dead or whatever.
Who hasn't had any dealings with that product in a long time. I will make a comment for Web in relates to the NIST cybersecurity framework. It's intense. I've spent time where I've had to go through page and Kelly can attest to it too. Oh my God, hundreds and hundreds of pages of information and specifics on every little note. When I went through that exercise and Kelly's shaking her head too, it's just it just makes your mind explode. There's just so much information that you have to know about, and trying to secure things in a way that has to have following those guidelines is number one for an enterprise.
Mm-hmm. And that's totally unrelated to like SOC 2 and other sorts of things that people have to come up against. It's like, it's so overwhelming. And I think we've mentioned here before, like cybersecurity insurance as well. Like, if you are a business and applying for business insurance, one of the options that you have is like cybersecurity insurance. Like, what happens if your company gets ransomware and you get locked, maybe you get locked out of stuff or whatever. Those are things that you also have to worry about. And there's a whole wave of questions that go along with that can a lot of times catch people flat-footed, even just on a basic level, because they're very specific.
Hey, I'm going to interrupt just a second. Warren has to run. Warren, thank you so much for being here. Good to see you. Continue to feel better, please.
Thanks. And next Tuesday is going to be good. I'm feeling like something's happening. So
where can folks find you if they want to contact you between now and then?
I'll be at the Apple Store probably Tuesday. So that's where you can find me.
Not what I meant, Warren. Okay, well.
Back to the Future. That's where he is.
It'll be in the show notes, folks. What can I tell you? He missed his cue completely.
I guess he really
his wife was calling him.
Yeah. And when your wife calls, you answer the phone. Right. So some other things I had on the list, and I'm just going to throw them out there and see how. Well, some things, Kelly, you were saying, and I wanted to bring this up too. Because I know that there are some cyber insurance companies, cyber insurance policies that require you to implement two-factor authentication, right? And why you wouldn't implement two-factor authentication just means you are absolutely lazy and you don't care and you deserve whatever you get. I'm sorry, but it's just...
I think you mean you're bad and you should feel bad. I think that's where you're headed with that.
And you're bad and you're negligent is where I was headed with Kelly.
Yeah. The thing is, it's not as easy as it sounds. I mean, there are some services like Office 365, for example, where it's these days really easy to do two-factor. But there are a lot of services out there where like it's not even an option at all. Or it doesn't work as well. I mean, start with your WordPress sites. Like that's like one of the things I'm trying to secure, and like it's a pain.
Well, I think, Chuck, that's what you're saying. Like take the opportunity when it's afforded you. Like Not everything has two-factor, and not everything even has the capability for it. But for the things that do, it's getting easier all the time to implement those things. iOS 15's iCloud Keychain now has a way to manage time-based one-time passwords. So if you are getting a text message sent to you with that 6-digit number in it, you don't even have to do that anymore. You can let iCloud Keychain manage that for you. There's, a thing that I like to tell people a lot, Chuck, if we're going to talk about it, a thing that I like to tell people that we remind people about on Security Friday over at TDO as well is you can use most of the time you can use any authenticator app you want, and you can put more than one account in that authenticator. So if you have Google Authenticator installed and set up for your Google stuff, you can use it for your Microsoft stuff too. And if you have Microsoft Authenticator, you can set it up for Google, you can set it up for Facebook, you can set up Authy and use Authy to manage all of those two-factor authentication situations for you. There's a lot of easy ways to do it. I know 1Password has it built in. I think either LastPass or Bitwarden has it built in as well, that you can use it to automatically.
Secrets as well.
Secrets has it. There are a whole lot of ways to make two-factor stuff available. And when you don't have the opportunity for two-factor, that's your chance to stop and think about, is this a service I need to continue to use? Like if it's personal stuff, am I giving my credit card to somebody that doesn't even have two-factor against my account? Like, what are they doing with my information otherwise? That kind of thing. Or find alternatives and let them know, like, I'm done with you. I know more than one person who has switched banks because they're like, having a 6-character password is shenanigans. You're not keeping my data safe with 6-character maximums on passwords. That's not a thing. So, so I'm moving to a place that takes my security, that takes protecting my data seriously. And, financial data is nothing to screw with. So yeah, that's absolutely that sounds completely reasonable to me. If you're using bank software that says, and you give it a 7-character password and it goes, nope, maybe think twice about banking with them. And I think there's a whole lot of there's feedback that goes into that as well. Like, go tell them, like, I'm moving because your security people couldn't Bitdefend their way out of a wet paper sack. Like, no thanks. So, there's, like you said, Chuck, there's no excuse for it in a lot of cases. And it's also just sort of a thing you kind of have to review for yourself. Like, Everything from Facebook has a 2-factor option. So, if you're like, oh, what do I do about my Instagram account? They have 2-factor.
Mm-hmm.
I know they do because I use it. For the few times I go
Twitter,
it totally works.
But there are some examples where it just doesn't work. Like I haven't tried PayPal recently, but as of I want to say a year ago, PayPal's 2-factor system was like crap. It did not, like half of the time it didn't work at all.
Yeah, so. I barely use PayPal like through their app or anything, so I haven't had it. I haven't had it work for me very well at all either.
The next episode of MacVoices continues our discussion of cybersecurity topics for Cybersecurity Awareness Month. We touch on why your security practices can affect others. We talk about debit and credit card usage and how to protect yourself, and software updates. That's all next time on MacVoices. Until then, and as always, I'm Chuck Joyner. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.